Yeah, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, so it's, I got a countdown. Oh, and I just got a notification, watch live. Okay, so we actually are live.
Yeah, you're right. So we don't have.
I mean, if you wanted, these are for.
It's on right now. That's why I did this.
Anybody else for citizen comment? You don't have to sign up. I'm just gonna take this because this is how I'll call you in order. All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Everyone can rise to the First part of our meeting is citizen comments. If you did not sign this sheet, that's okay. I will just call these individuals first, and at the end, anybody else can come up. You have 3 minutes. It is a time for you to address the board. It is not a time for us to dialogue back and forth. And this first part of citizen comments is anything that is on our agenda. We have a second thing for citizen comments, which is the end of our agenda, and that's open to anything. So you have 3 minutes. I will give you a 1 minute warning, or when you have 1 minute left. So the first up is Liz. Am I going to pronounce this correctly?
It's Liz Malish.
I have addresses for several of these, so I guess if you would just state your name and address, that would be helpful. But we also I have some of them written down. Betsy.
I have my address on there, so am I ready to start? Okay. Liz Malish. I have children in the district, and I'm here today. Many of us parents are here tonight asking for what we've always had, parental choice, when it comes to making the best decisions we can for our children, when it comes to their physical, mental, and emotional health. A parent that wanted to have me address you all on her behalf anonymously because she couldn't be here. So I'm going to read a story from her about how this last week went from her children so you could hear their experience with the masks on. By the second day of school, my 5th grader has already developed blisters behind her ears. We've tried adjusting the mask several ways. She has sensitive skin, so I think we'll have to put Band-Aids on behind her ears every morning. She's 10, and for the first time, she has acne on her face, and it's really making her feel self-conscious. In the first few days of school, several children have appointed themselves to be mask correctors, pulling on children's masks and touching their face. My daughters, minding their own business, have other kids coming up to them, touching their face, their mask, to determine if the mask is being worn correctly or if this is thick enough in the eyes of the other child. Other kids touching my kid's face is the fastest way to catch any virus. According to my children, many kids are dropping their masks on the floor or setting them on the lunch table and then picking them up and putting them back on their face. So any germs that may have landed on the table or the floor are now being strapped back onto their faces for the day. After recess, the playground is littered with masks that don't get picked up. Also on the playground, the kids are allowed to hug, hold hands, and I'm happy they don't have those restrictions at the playground, but they do when they're in the classroom, which leads it to be very confusing and double standard. In my daughter's classroom, kids were told to scrunch close together in the rug. When a child suggested it wasn't a good idea because of COVID, the teacher told them not to worry. They had their masks on to protect them. I have no problem with these close contacts, just again, the double standards and confusion for these children. The thing that's frustrating the most is that another child did not approve of the style of mask my daughter was wearing, went up to her, grabbed her face, and told her she better change her mask or she was going to tell on her. My daughter spent the rest of the day terrified and came home crying because she was afraid of getting in trouble because the other child grabbed her face. The mask mandate is turning children into little judgmental busybodies that go around and make other children very uncomfortable. Even adults don't always know how to wear the mask right, and they might take it off and lay it on a surface. Thank you. That's actually worse than not wearing one at all because the germs are being trapped on your face and you're breathing them in all day. Putting masks on kids will likely result in the spreading the virus even faster. That's just one story. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Anarelli.
Hi, Jennifer Anarelli, 2411 White Pine Drive. I have some more stories as well. This is from a Young Fives parent. My son is in Young Fives. He's never worn a mask before and gets instant anxiety the second he puts it on. The school says they're not required outside, but he also told me they tell him to keep the mask on when he's outside during the 88-degree heat advisory. I wasn't able to send my child to school the following day because of that, and he said it's making him feel really tired. He's having a hard time following the teacher because her mask is over her mouth as well. I'm having a really difficult time getting him to understand why everyone has masks on, and it's been an endless challenge with getting him to want to go to school and do it again the next day. Another parent says, my son came home every day drenched in sweat, like stepped out of the shower wet. He has been overheated and feverish. Another parent says, my daughter suffers from headaches, and wearing the mask last year caused her so many headaches, more than normal. This year, the first day of school, another headache. Second day, headache that turned into a full-blown migraine, and the school called to have her picked up. Another parent, my elementary child in 4th grade, asked why he has to wear a mask, but his middle school sibling in 8th grade didn't. It doesn't make sense, and it's not fair, he said. Frankly, I have no answer to this question, as it makes no logical sense to me either. And another parent, she says, I saw her eyes filled with sadness instantly as I put her mask on for her first day. I told her, Mommy's fighting for this, babe, and I'm not going to stop. Hopefully these masks don't last long. The first 2 days of recess, kindergartners were not being reminded to take their masks off during the 88-degree weather and the high humidity. The kids all thought that they had to keep wearing them. Wednesday, when she got off the bus, she started crying as soon as she saw me. She had a wet mask. It was dripping sweat all around her face and nose. She was breathing heavy, and all she could get out was, I can't talk right now. I need the air conditioning, Mama. Another one, my 2nd grader just said he gets a headache when he breathes through this, and he feels like he's going to throw up when he wears it too. And finally, my son wore cloth masks 2 days last week, and both days they were soaking wet, and I mean the whole mask with his spit. 2 days he wore a disposable mask, and this is what it looked like, and there was a picture she included with the disposable mask just sopping, and this is a kindergarten parent. Also, I'm sure you've all seen this box and what it says on here, and I'll read it in case you haven't. These products are not intended for medical use or to prevent disease or illness. It's not to prevent illness or disease, so it's on the box. I'm not quite sure why. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Terry Thornburg.
Hello. Thank you guys for all that you do in being here this evening. I don't think any of us would like to be in this position, whether on your side of the table or on ours. So, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Injustice anywhere is a threat against justice everywhere. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. That was by Martin Luther King. I'm here tonight speaking, first time, because I feel like that there has been an injustice, that a choice that a parent gets to make for their medical, psychological, physical, emotional being is being taken away. And I just want to propose this to the boards. Let's just say that you had gone in the other direction. Let's just say that you had mandated that masks were not allowed and that it was a, dress code violation. I would probably still be here this evening because some families do feel that that is a choice that they need to make for their own health choices for their families. So I just would like to say that I feel like my choice has been taken away in terms of what is in my kids' best interest. By allowing families to choose and practicing compassionate acceptance for all, you might be able to hold this community together instead of create a divide. And I should not have to disclose my children's medical information to get a medical waiver. That is something that is really important. I found that I have to disclose that, and your legalese even says that you could deny the request anyways, and I also feel like that's an injustice. The other thing is wearing a mask. We've all been talking about breathing. My son, who's in 4th grade, who didn't wear a mask all summer, again, had the same symptoms, headaches. I had to have an ice pack on his neck and his head the first day, and he is susceptible to nosebleeds because of part of his medical condition. And so with that, he's also started getting nosebleeds again. So that is something that I did notice. The other thing is I would hope to gosh you guys aren't going to mandate that we are required to eat what the USDA provides for lunch every day either. Because I also kind of feel like that would be a choice that is taken away. My 4th grader had indicated to me that he is not allowed to bring in anything to the lunchroom to warm up because it takes too much time. And so again, another choice is kind of being taken away. So with that, I just want to end again with a quote from Martin Luther King, is that we shall not match your capacity to inflict suffering by our capacity to endure it. We will meet your physical force or your mask mandates with the soul force or a soul mandate. Do to us what you will, and we will continue. Thank you.
Michelle Eichler.
Michelle Eichler, 3970 Van Etter. I think you guys have seen me enough standing in front of you to know that education is very, very important to me. But I'm going to mix this up a little bit and not talk about mass. I want to talk about cattle because I am extremely excited. I've worked my entire life trying to make sure that those who have the least means are able to receive the best education possible. And you guys sitting here is proof positive that you believe in the same thing. And to ally ourselves with cattle, and I know you haven't heard everything that Scott has to say today yet, but not only is there the physical presence of being able to go in the library and learn how to navigate it, there are over 60 applications that these students will have access to. I can't even imagine how different homeschooling would have been last year if the 6 kids who were potting at my house had had access to all of this information, and I didn't have to myself, while going to college full-time, also help them navigate that process, where they have a cadre of staff at Cattle. They're more than happy to help them with that via text message, via email, and it's just a resource, particularly for parents who don't have the resources to provide all of these applications, either financially or time, to these students. And I honestly believe that this is a free service, that for the school board to not participate in the process of having our students have access to all of this wonderful world-class knowledge, it would be remiss in your duties. This is something that in one easy, simple step, we'll be able to give every student access to this information. And I realize there are going to be parents who are concerned about what their kids are able to access. But there's opportunities for them. First off, easy enough, they can download an app or go to a website and type in their kids' information and be able to see exactly what they checked out. Or they can opt out and their kids won't have access to that. As a parent, that's the right to do that, 100%. So I hope you'll take and listen to Scott carefully and all the wonderful things that other school districts are already doing, and vote yes, that we'll be able to ally ourselves with cattle. Thank you.
Thank you. Nadine Force.
Thank you for letting me speak again. Obviously, imposing these unnecessary mask mandates comes from the fear of closing the school, which none of us want. So many of you stated 2 weeks ago that you believed masks gave an additional layer of protection. Again, as I said 2 weeks ago and emailed all of you, this is not true. COVID is less than the size of 1 micron and can get through a mask. It's literally pointless to wear a mask. Do you believe that masks actually stop the spread? Or is the health department in Linda Vale easier on you if you have a mandate in place? I want to know what your deciding factors were if you're voting against what the majority of this district actually wants, because clearly it's not science. It's not concern over lack of oxygen and negative health risks that masks cause. If people's masks and vaccines work, let them wear them and use them. By definition, this actual vaccine isn't truly a vaccine, as you can still transmit and spread it. Let us have the freedom to make choices for our children. Thank you.
Shellington.
Hi, my name is Megan Shellington. I have 4 children in the district, all elementary age. And I have to tell you, I searched long and hard to find a good fit for my kids. We're a military family, and it is not easy for my children to have a mom who's gone for the Army way too much. And we've lived all over the world, different states, different countries. And When we were back here in Michigan, I searched long and hard to find a district that could educate my children, because that's their job, is to educate my children. I take my kids to the doctor when I have health concerns. I take them to school for their educational concerns. And again, being in a military family, we've seen a lot and we've traveled a lot. And the adjustments my children have had to face and the changes that they've had to face, they've done it like amazing, and it really surprises me sometimes. They've stuck through deployments. They stuck through times with a parent being gone constantly. And honestly, when the world shut down, I left. I had to go. And I was gone for 5 months. And they made do. They did the best they could. And it baffles me that the one adjustment my children cannot make are these masks. And it absolutely baffles me that this school board thinks they can tell me how I should parent my children. My son is on the spectrum. And again, this school is like a saving grace for a child like him, a child who is only seen for his disability and nothing else. This school has been fantastic for that. They treat him like a student until the mask mandates. I waited 5.5 years for my son to say mom, and now, because of these damn masks, nobody can hear him.
Anybody else?
I'm Steve Shepler, and I'm within the school board range here, so I don't know that you need my address. I would like to know, I'm not familiar with too many of you guys, but the mask position on Jeff West and you, David Indus, I would like, everybody ought to know where each one of you guys stand. So at some point, I would welcome that. I'd like to remind you that there are no mandates from Governor Whitmer. There are no mandates from DHHS. There are no mandates for the schools from Linda Vale. On Linda's behalf, I think it was unfair for her to put this in your lap. You guys simply are not qualified to make decisions like this. You're not doctors, you're not scientists, you're simply members of this community, just like the overwhelming majority of people that took your survey and decided that no masking was the where they wanted to go, and you chose, each one of you chose to ignore this, except for you. Thank you. I would strongly suggest that you put this decision back into the parents' hands and the community's hands. They are the people that you people are supposed to be serving. Once again, I'd like to remind you, Whitmer, DHS, and Vale have no mandates. Who gave any of you the authority to go beyond that? You're overstepping. I would request that you provide the parents and the community with scientific evidence as to why you have chosen to override the decision of your governor, DHHS, and Linda Vale. You guys need to address that to us. It's not your call, it's their call. Thank you.
Dan Rhines, 923 William Street. Y'all voted at your last meeting for the elementary mask mandate, and I thought when you voted that it was right in the mandate. that it was for instructional areas only, as in the school. And my son's teachers did a great job taking pictures the first week of school and putting them on the Seesaw app, and that was wonderful. I thank them for that. But they took them on the playground, and they're all wearing their masks. And it's like 85, 86 degrees outside, and I thought in that mandate you were very specific with instructional areas. And I'm not a person who tells my kids to disregard what people in authority over them tell them to do. I told my kids, when you go outside, you take that mask off. I don't care what the teacher says. The school board told the mandate was instructional areas. When it is 85, 86 degrees outside, my kids should not be wearing a mask outside. Flat out. Just the way it is.
Hi, my name's Marcy Shepler. I do have a handout I would like to pass out when I'm done, okay? But in the meantime, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what that is. It's basically about a study that a group of parents in Gainesville, Florida sent 6 masks to a lab to the University of Florida, not just any lab, the University of Florida, requesting an analysis of the contaminants that's found on these masks after they've been worn. And what they found was 11 dangerous pathogens on the mask, and they range from pneumonia, tuberculosis, meningitis. There is, I'll let you read it, food poisoning, Lyme disease. There is a list, Legionnaire's disease. It says that half of the masks were contaminated with 1 or more strains of pneumonia-causing bacteria. 1/3 were contaminated with 1 or more strains of meningitis. 1/3 were contaminated with dangerous antibiotic-resistant bacterial pathogens. The face mask studies the face masks that were studied were new or freshly laundered before wearing them that day and had been worn for 5 to 8 hours, most during the in-person schooling by the children's ages 6 to 11. Masks provide a warm, moist environmental for bacteria to grow. These are little tiny kids that we're referring to here. They're wearing them in the bathrooms. The mask of the University of Florida's mass spectrometry research and education for analysis said how dangerous that these masks are for these little kids with these bacteria on them. Now, you all stated at the last meeting, the survey that you took of the parents of Williamston, 3 or 4 different surveys, they all wanted to make that be a matter of choice. You, except for you, decided that they were going to wear these masks. My question to you is that if I take my granddaughter's mask after a day in the school, and maybe some other parents do the same thing, and we take it to a lab and find out that because of your decision, my granddaughter has to wear this possibly meningitis-infested mask because of your decision, how are you going to abstain from a lawsuit for that? Because it's your decision that is doing this. And as my husband stated, this is not Whitmer. This is not anybody but you, however many there was, 5 of you, that made this decision. And I agree with Steve that I would like to know where the other 2 stand, because when I watched my granddaughter get off the bus the first day of school and get 90 degrees and her hair was caked to her head, the mask was stuck on her face, and she came out and said, "How was school? Get the mask off. How was school?" And she said, "I love school, but I do not like the mask." And my question for the rest of you, because you won't be sitting in that chair next election. So I want to know where the other 2 stand, so we know who we have to replace. I'm going to give you each the study.
Anybody else?
My name's Amanda Chrysler, and Boy, I did not plan on talking tonight. I've watched the school board meetings. I watched the last one, and I kicked myself for not coming as I watched most of the members in their masks touch their face repeatedly, and then other things over and over again. The other ones sit there, act like we are bothering her, shaking her leg back and forth. I have 3 children. One child that's in elementary school here in 3rd grade who has loved his teachers every single year since he was in preschool. We were super thrilled when we got that email saying that masks were gonna be optional. You know, my kids hadn't worn masks in I don't even know how long. They were so excited. And then right before school started, we got that thing saying that the kids had to wear masks, and my son, the look on his face was extremely upsetting to me. When I picked him up from school his first day, his mask was literally sopping wet, walking outside. That is not healthy. That is not healthy for our kids. You have countless parents here asking you for a choice. We're not condemning people for choosing to do what they want to do. All we want is a choice. Okay? I'm disgusted. It's disgusting. My son 3 days this week cried before we left our house because he did not want to wear a mask all day. What am I supposed to do to my kid? I have to tell him, well, that's just the way it is right now. But you know what? No. If I'm not going to be my son's advocate, who is? Obviously none of you.
Absolutely.
I am his parent. You are not my kid's parent. I saw you out there the first day, touching your face, touching other things with your face mask.
You have 1 minute.
Lead by example, buddy.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Gail Gibbs. I reside in Weberville, and we are School of Choice. And we actually just are moving to Williamston. So there were just a couple things that I've thought about from the last meeting to this meeting was, at the last board meeting, you guys decided to mask our children with the intent to keep them in school. However, mask or no mask, if they're exposed and considered a close contact, they're required to quarantine. So is that really keeping our kids in school by requiring them to wear a mask? Also, the last couple of emails that I've gotten regarding a positive COVID case, you've included in this in your email. The Ingham County Health Department recommends the following actions to help limit the spread. And the first one is wearing a mask. Isn't it a little bit hypocritical to sit in front of me and tell me my kid's required to, but then send me an email saying that the health department recommends it? Also, 2 weeks ago, Nancy had stated that they're so quick to tell us what our scores need to be. But when it comes to the masks, they're hands off. Did everyone forget last year when it was required, not by you, but by the state, for our kids to wear a mask? If they truly wanted it required, they would. Have you asked yourself of Linda Vale why they are able to and they did require it last year, but they have not this year? As a personal side to it, I've got 2 that are in school right now and a 3rd coming up. I have an 8-year-old that's told me that he goes to the bathroom more times than he has to so that he can shut the stall and take his mask off to breathe. He tells me that when he goes outside because the other kids are wearing his mask, he goes around the building so he can take it off to breathe. We don't want our kids wearing masks outside, but they are, but we're canceling sport activities because of the heat index, where they're not required to wear a mask. We have one that's in young 5s right now, and about 3 months ago, he got diagnosed with a form of muscular dystrophy. It's a rare form, and there's not much study out there. So he's been doing speech and PT and OT for the last 3 years. As a child with speech problems, you probably already know when you have to ask them over and over what they're trying to say, they get a little frustrated. So imagine putting a 5-year-old in a brand new school, in an environment with all new people, and then you put a mask over his face. He's hard to hear, and now you have a mask over him so he can't hear anything. He doesn't want to talk. You can't understand what he says. So how would you feel if you had to repeat yourself every time you tried to say something to somebody else?
Anybody else?
I'll say, oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm Sarah Oxley. I live in Perry. We do school of choice. I wasn't planning on saying anything, but my son, who has heart problems, he has asthma, he's in 2nd grade. He has come home every single day the first week of school, drenched in sweat, mask wet. I send multiple masks because I would hope he would change them. He goes through 5 or 6 of them a day because they're wet, nasty, they've fallen on the floor, they've fallen on the bathroom floor, friends are grabbing them, touching them. He came home Friday, completely a mess, sweaty, red, couldn't breathe, has headaches. I believe he had heat exhaustion. He came home with the fever, dehydrated. Why doesn't anyone care about these other kids? Right. I don't understand. My son's important. I don't want other children sick. I'm not one of those evil people that are wishing COVID on others, but my ultimate goal is my family.
Right.
I don't understand how you guys get to choose what's right for my family. Yeah. And especially since the governor doesn't even have a mandate, like everyone has stated. So something's not right. My son, too, is one that goes to the bathroom multiple times to take his mask off. Or he's too afraid to take his mask off, comes home, has to have his inhaler, headaches, we have to lay there. An 8-year-old shouldn't have to do that. They should come home from school and go play. That's all.
Hi, I'm Christine McGorran, Perry. We do school of choice. I'm disappointed with your decision requiring masks for the elementary school students. You have good systems in place to hear from the community. You had a lot of input and you chose to vote against the majority opinion of the people you represent. Your own stated board goals are to represent open-mindedly the entire district and to integrate community input into the decision-making process. The board failed to meet both of these goals. According to the Michigan Association of School Boards, members should come to the meetings prepared to make an informed decision, seek out and respect perspectives that are different than their own, and show concern for all students in action, deeds, and decisions. Only Mrs. Conley appeared to have done any investigation into the effectiveness of masking children. The rest of you appeared to make your decision based on fear, emotion, and on a recommendation from the Ingham County Health Department. Masking was not mandated by the Health Department because they do not have the authority to mandate it. Neither does the school. Only the governor can legally make a mask mandate, and so far she hasn't done that. Your decision was out of the scope of your authority. You are not health experts. It also shows a lack of concern for the students and families who do not want their children's breathing restricted while they are at school. According to the MASB's governance standards, your decisions should serve as an example of effective and responsible leadership, and you should govern in a manner that is worthy of trust. This decision has failed on all accounts. When you can't meet your own stated goals or adhere to the guiding principles of the Board of Education, you are showing weak leadership. Any board member who cannot demonstrate strong leadership by making informed decisions and by voting for the consensus of the community should immediately seek retraining. Anyone who cannot manage to be a strong leader for this community should submit their resignation and make room for someone who can. Right. Last thing, if we are truly in a COVID crisis that requires mask usage, why wouldn't the governor issue a mask mandate? Right. Why would the health department only offer recommendations?
1 minute.
Do you truly want to play the what-if game on the faces of the children? Do you really want to restrict their breathing just in case? Almost everyone here knows that is wrong. Please do what is right for the children and do not require masks for the children. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Tanya Po. I am out of district school choice. I live in Holt. So 10 years ago, right before my oldest was going to begin school, we spent a lot of time deciding where we were going to move to get the children in, or my child at the time, to start school. We chose Williamston over Mason. A few things have happened over the last several years that have made me second guess making that choice. This just tops it off with the mask mandate. I have one in middle school who obviously is not required to wear a mask. So he's hanging out with all of his friends, mask-free, sharing all the germs, and then comes home and shares it with the littles because I don't make my kids wear masks at home or anywhere else outside of having to at school. I do have one child. She is in the 1st grade this year. She is exempt. She wears a face shield, which I can tell you doesn't do much. They can't see. The teacher allows them to move it out of the way. And I don't know if you've ever worn a face mask, but it's kind of hard to see through them. They don't stay very clean with children. When I had to move out of Williamston, I chose to do school choice to keep my children here. Unfortunately, I moved a lot as a kid and had several different schools. I didn't want to do that to my children. The masks are making it very hard to want to stay here, and I may be only in a family of 4 in your district, but I know a lot of other people are choosing to leave. I know there's a wait list for Dansville schools, and I know others that are moving to Brighton and Howell because they don't have these mask mandates. I don't understand how, if you're vaccinated or wear a mask, how that's helpful, or even in the middle school, children are vaccinated or children aren't vaccinated because not everyone is vaccinated and not everyone is old enough. But if someone's vaccinated and in the same room with someone who's not, and they both were exposed to COVID, how would the one child have to be quarantined but not the other? That doesn't really make any sense. And having a child that is 3 about to start Little Hornets next week, it's going to be very difficult to keep a mask on that child. I'm not sure what the precautions are or what's going to happen. I know 3-year-olds are 3-year-olds and they're all different. Unfortunately, I have a tough child who's very stubborn. So I do have concerns about that I'll be getting a call to come pick up my child every day, which unfortunately we have a 2-parent household that works. Not one of us stays home, so that's going to cause a lot of problems as well. There's no point in making some children mask up and some children not. They're all together. They all share the same germs. It just doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Monica Schaefer. I already know my address numerous times. I wasn't going to speak, but you have all these parents here that are being parents. They're being responsible. They're here because they are the #1 advocate for their child, and I've always said that. Parenting and parents are the #1 advocate for your child, and nobody will step up for your child except you, so great job, parents. But they're here talking, but I do not see it on the agenda, anything about the mask mandate. Therefore, I'm assuming if it's not on the agenda, if it's not a discussion topic, it will not be discussed tonight. And since it's not a discussion topic, we can't set aside the rules to have a revote on masks. So therefore, I'm assuming we're continuing with masks regardless of parental input. I don't know. I guess all I can say is prove me wrong. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. We're gonna move on. Celebrations. Adam.
All right, well, we're going to start 2 weeks ago with I think by all accounts, at least from the feedback I've received, a very positive first week back for our staff. One of the things we focused on, in addition to the professional development that I'll cover later, is really giving everyone an opportunity to reconnect and really kind of start to build back teamwork. We have a really tight-knit group of educators, and obviously over the last 18 months, it's been extremely challenging to not be able to do some of the things that we've done in the past. So as you'll see in the agendas from the schools, as well as the way we structured opening day this year, there was kind of a different focus on really trying to reconnect everyone and get our team back together again. So I think that was a big success. Another notable success is especially at our secondary buildings, the parent-student turnout at open house was probably the largest I've seen, especially at the high school. It was very impressive, and that level of engagement I think bodes well for the year to come. So those were all very positive developments. Last week was the first week of school. Obviously, that's the reason we're all here, and very exciting to see all the students back in our schools. Obviously, it's been a long time since we've had that type of environment, and I think the energy, the positivity, and really the motivation for us as educators really comes from the students, and so seeing them back in the buildings was just a great experience. And obviously, with every first week of school, there are things that we identify and need to improve upon, and so that's been a work in progress over the last week and a half. And then finally, one award to note tonight, or recognition, comes from our Project Citizen Club. It was a club last year. This year it's been integrated into our advanced placement U.S. history class in 8th grade. But the team worked on a project last year that focused on school safety and response systems. And in June of last year, actually took that project to the Project Citizen regional competition, and then from there moved on to the national showcase. And they were one of just 21 schools from across the country, I think one of only 2 middle schools, to receive recognition at the showcase. And so you can actually go into the story and click on the link, and you'll see a list of schools from around the country, and Williamston Middle School is one of those schools to receive that recognition. So last year was a group of about a dozen students that worked on that initiative and did just a phenomenal job. Lindsay Bolus is the faculty supervisor. This year the teacher, I think she presented to you some ideas around this class and the club back in early last spring. And just to let you know that that's obviously been a tremendous success for those students and that organization, which of course this year will be integrated into that class. So that is celebrations for this evening. Any your questions?
Are there any questions for Ellen?
No.
It was pretty exciting to see all the staff back during opening day, getting everyone back together. We do not have an educational update superintendent's report. I'm going to send it back to you.
Yeah, so for upcoming events and discussions in the September meeting, you'll receive the overnight and out-of-state trip requests. So those have been, I would say, formatted with the adjustment to board policy that we made 2 years ago, and so you'll have those for your review and discussion in September. Moving on to a board request, and I don't remember who made this, but actually it was a memo I put on my calendar for earlier this month. It must have been something I requested back in the spring, where our AP test score results in terms of looking at a comparative analysis. So what we did is we put together a spreadsheet that showed what those are over the last 5 years. Obviously, the interesting piece with this is it's very challenging to collect these data or any other data we're going to see this year regarding assessment in any kind of valid comparative context, given the disruption to the learning environment that's taken place over the last 2 years. That said, I didn't want to get that information out to you, and so just as a quick guide in terms of what those look like, highlighted classes or highlighted areas are classes that are not offered at the high school, either not in a particular year or not at all. A reminder that students do not need to enroll in an advanced placement class in order to take the assessment, and conversely, not all students who take the class decide to take the assessment. 2D and 3D art and design, as well as drawing, are all part of one independent study class and has subcomponents within the exam. Calculus in A and B is the equivalent of 1 semester of a college course, and we do offer that, but Calculus PC is an equivalent of an entire college, a year-long college course, and we do not offer that. However, some students do opt to take that, and if they do, then the subcomponents of A and B are scored out as a part of that larger AP exam. Obviously, the scores are going to fluctuate from year to year. There's a number of variables, even taking the last 2 years out of the equation to include who taught the class, what it was offered, composition of the test, the classes taken by the student leading up to when they took the test, and obviously the largest variable is always going to be the students themselves. But that is kind of an overview. You can see the numbers. I think it's going to be a pattern this year as we kind of look at assessment data from 2020 and 2021. And it's really hard to put it in, again, that valid comparative context. We know even at the state level from year to year, they change the composition of the test, and in a lot of cases the duration of the time afforded students to take the test. Obviously with the impact COVID has had, those variables are even more pronounced. Any questions on that?
Yeah, Adam, taking a look at this, and the number of kids who've taken tests compared to the number of students that, just personally knowing with my children going through the high school over the last 4 years, we got kids that are taking classes, but they're not taking the AP exam. And I believe that because we have this weighted grades, we have kids that are taking these classes specifically to inflate their grade point average. I think that should be something that gets looked at. With this measure that was being presented to us, it doesn't tell us, wow, okay, 26 kids took a class, but that was how many years ago? This last year only 4 took it, but we know that class was fairly full. So only 4 kids opted to. Plus we have children who are going to class, and then they sign up as a senior to take the class, but as they get accepted to, let's just say the University of Michigan, or Yale, or any number of institutions who will not accept they're not going to spend the $100 to take the test. So I think that those are measures that need to be looked at, because we know kids who have opted out that probably were the top students in the class the last couple of years, but they opt out because their institution says, you can take the test, but it's not going to count, so why would you waste $100? There's other kids that have no intention on ever taking the test, figure that they can get a 93 in a class, they can get a 5-point, which then offsets a 3.5 or a 3-point that they may have gotten in the class in prior years. Colleges aren't really looking at weighted grades anymore. They've figured the system out. And I think that's something that needs to be looked at. Because honestly, this data right here means absolutely zero, other than the fact that I see that we had 4 kids that took the chemistry exam. I like looking at real data, and that's not real data to me. So maybe we can get,
Is there something else you want to see?
I want to see how many kids were actually enrolled in those classes compared to how many kids took the exam. The scores are nice to see, but I want to see how many kids are actually taking the AP class because they truly want to get, as what was presented to me as a board member when we approved weighted grades, was for kids to save money on college and to help them get into college because they're actually going into the class and they are then preparing themselves for an exam. Now, granted, the last 2 years, it's hard to kind of see how things went. I mean, you're only going to school half a day last year, what have you, or half the amount of time, and the rest was online. So, but I do think that that's something that we need to be examining, because there's other schools that do just fine without weighted grades.
Anything else on the AP scoring that you got from them? Thank you for gathering that. It's nice to see.
Can you speak up? I'm sorry. It's really hard to hear you back here. I'm not trying to be rude. I just
No, that's okay.
We
He's still
can't hear.
going. So he's still going. So I didn't say anything that needed to be said. He's still going.
All right, so I'll review the agenda for food service week, which is the next item in the agenda. Again, as I mentioned earlier about opening the week as a whole, the theme was really about trying to bring the staff back together. as far as uniting them, team building, and reconnecting. That said, that was integrated in some ways in pretty creative fashion across the buildings into a very focused professional agenda, a professional development agenda over those in-service days. So just to kind of hit the highlights, you have the agendas, you have the complete agendas for each building. But Discovery Elementary really focused on positive behavior interventions and supports. There's a lot of systems that are built within those, and obviously having several new staff members across the building, and really having been a year and a half since those structures were a direct focus of professional development. Took quite a bit of time to address those, make sure those systems were in place for day one, and also address tiered intervention. So tiered supports for behavior, tiered supports for social emotional development and support, as well as academics. Explorer Elementary really focused mostly on math instruction. They did this through the consultation and close collaboration with a math consultant from the Ingham County School District. As we talked about many times over the last few years, math is kind of the focus area for Explorer, and so I think the agenda points to that as a specific area that they continue to focus on. The middle school also focused on PBIS, positive behavior intervention and supports. They also reviewed their grading practices in alignment with board goal number 5, and also focused on developing the integration of literacy strategies across the curriculum. And then finally, the high school took on, I think most specifically, grading practices. Again, we know that is a board-defined focus area for them, and the vast majority of their professional development time was spent starting to work on strategy for moving forward with those standardized measures of providing students and parents feedback. So that's a summary of the professional development in-service week. Are there any questions that I can address?
Any questions? Some of it sounds fun and interesting.
Good.
I'd like to know what a top walk is.
Thought the same thing.
Like a top walk? That kind of
I
fun.
was thinking it was like a cakewalk.
Yeah. You have to write things out there, I don't know. They all seem to be enjoying themselves.
Oh, the chop block, that was the decorating that the middle school pals and student government did out in front of the middle school building to celebrate the
Oh,
first
so
day
they
of
went-
school.
okay.
So the staff went out to take a look at what they had done, which was really well done. Really creative.
For some of you who could go on opening day, Adam did have a murder mystery for staff kind of to work together, kind of an opening type of thing. I do have to say, some of us were on an unmentioned superintendent's team who did take it very seriously and was kind of like, all right, ready, go. And we were all kind of like, ready, go. But it was lots of fun. It seems staff really enjoyed that, and it was a great way to kick off the day. So kudos to Adam on that. That was a good idea. Okay, board committee reports. We just have one, ISOA, which is Jeff.
Well, we met on the 11th of
Yes.
August. I had to lead the meeting. Nancy, you were in attendance, as was Sarah. And basically, we had Linda Vale speak to us, all the school boards that were present, regarding what is going on with COVID. And the bottom line, in my opinion, is that, and I said this, there's a election, there's primary elections next August. We've got people in politics that do not want to do what they feel they need to do, and they're pushing all of this stuff down to, 4 years ago I talked about the levels of government. Well, they've taken it and pushed it all the way down to us. as school boards to make decisions here with things of highly recommended, it's not just recommended, highly recommended mitigation with masking, social distancing, information that has been given to the superintendents, quarantine, how quarantines work, vaccinated, unvaccinated, all of those things were covered, and that information was sent out to multiple school boards. I don't know whether it helped cause an emergency school board meeting in another school district or not, but they were in attendance. So information's being given to school boards on a much regular basis because of what's going on. And our superintendent obviously gets, I don't know if it's daily, probably at least a couple, 2-3 times a week, exactly what's going on. And some things they're getting before the news ever reports it. So those are all things that we've been able to realize. I thought Linda Vale did a very good job of explaining it out to us. I think she did a very good job of explaining that an unvaccinated person will be quarantined for 10 days with the option to test after 7 with a return to school with a negative test result, where a vaccinated child would be quarantined for 3 to 5 days after exposure. But and these are all coming from the CDC. So not everybody that was even on the meeting is 100% agreement with everything, but that's what we have, and we have something that's changing every day.
So do you mean, I think, I just want to make sure I did this correctly. I thought Linda said that, and granted, I am not an expert on the isolation quarantining. I go through this with Adam every time we talk about this. But a vaccinated person who has been in contact with someone that has tested positive, if they can prove their vaccination status, they don't have to necessarily be quarantined. If a vaccinated
They can
person
still get sick.
tests positive, then they have to quarantine.
Correct.
That's okay.
And they're not required to
So-
test.
This is all contradictory.
So, hold on a second. So this is a meeting for the board, for the public to observe. 2 weeks ago, I watched this online because I was taking my daughter to college. This is a board meeting for the school board, so we as a board need to be communicating. We need to make sure that anyone that's in the audience stays quiet. If they do not, we need to recess for 15 minutes, and then we need to probably make a phone call. We need to do our business here.
Okay.
Is that an official?
Anything else about the isolation?
Just that she'll keep us posted, keeping our superintendents posted. We learned about, pretty much the percentage of cases that were going on. And then future meetings, which our next meeting will be held in person for the first time. But we're going to provide a Zoom option for school board members who do not want to attend in person.
Okay. Any questions for Jack about ISOA? Okay, we're moving on to discussion items. The first one is the Capital Area District Library card.
Yeah, so we have Scott Fenster here, who's the Executive Director for the Capital Area District Libraries. This was a request of the Policy Committee from our meeting back in, I guess it was beginning of August, that Scott come to address some questions and kind of give an overview of the program and make sure the board had information that they needed to make an informed decision on this. So thanks, Scott, for being here tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you anytime. And I apologize that it's been a little bit. I think the last time that I came and addressed the board, and I'm joined by Williamston head librarian Julie Krasinski, it was when we actually renovated the space that is the current Williamston branch, which ended up being a beautiful library. And it's one that is used by the community, but also used by the students. And the initiative that I wanted to talk to you about tonight is called the Student Success Initiative. And it was one that We started as a partnership with the Ingham ISD, and we had the intention of rolling it out to some smaller school districts so we could kind of work out the kinks and then kind of roll it to all of the remaining Ingham ISD school districts in our service area. And so that's what we've done. We've done it to all of the remaining Ingham ISD schools in our area. So you are the last one, but no pressure. It's totally up to you. And I hope I explained some of the benefits of it through my presentation, and also kind of talk about some of the things that we learned as well too. So we started with Weberville Community Schools, and the reason that we started with them is they're a smaller school district, and working with them on what we needed from their IT department, and also what was beneficial for the students as well too. And then we went to larger school districts like Holt, like Hazlitt, Okemos, Langston School District, and what we did was we worked with your IT department to kind of see the easiest way for us to have student data in our circulation system. And the student data that we need is a name. We work with you on what students would know to be able to check out an item. So at some schools, it's a student login name that they use. It's just their name with their first initial, last name. It's whatever is the easiest for students to remember. So when they go to the Williamston branch or any Capital Area District Library branch, or they go online, they remember that so that they can actually check out an item. And one of the things that we do is we would work with you and we craft a letter to parents explaining what the Student Success Initiative is, what students can access with their library card, and if a parent isn't comfortable, it gives them the option of opting out for this program as well too. But the student information that we have is basically the name of the student, whatever you want that login to be for their library card, and then a way to contact the student. So whether it's a school issued email address, whether it's the parent's email address, and that's just used to, if they place a hold on an item, so that we can notify them that the hold came in, we can send them an email, or otherwise, if the item is overdue, we have a way to contact them and actually get the item back. There's no fines or fees that we charge the student for this, so through this program, students can check out 3 items at our library. So I'm just pointing over to the Williamston branch. They can check out up to 3 books, audiobooks, or magazines. They can check out up to 10 items in our digital collection, which is ebooks, streaming music, and then also audiobooks as well too. And that's able to customize those digital collections to focus on certain areas and Lexile scores as well too. And then as the member of the public commented on during public comments, is there's 60 research databases that are part of this collection as well too, which we hope will add to the student success. And one of those is an online tutoring service as well through tutor.com. And related to this, some of the things that we customized by talking to different school districts is there was a need for technology at home and hotspots at home as well too. So we have a set of hotspots and iPads and Chromebooks that can only be checked out with Student Success Initiative library cards, and those would be accessible for your students as well. And so kind of some of the lessons that we learned and how we protect student data, all of the data, which again would just be the name, whatever we figure out for the student login to be, and then the contact information, an email address or a phone number on how to contact the student. That would be the only student data that we have, but that's also protected in our library system as well too. So if you have a library card from the Capital Area District Library right now, the only people that have access to the information that's in your account is library staff. And this would comply with that as well too. These cards are basically just library cards with the home address being Williamston Community Schools, and then having a way to contact the student as well. One of the things that we found in Weberville is for the younger students, they came into the library, they didn't necessarily know their student login or the format that we came up with to check out materials. And so they actually wanted a physical library card. So we actually created a physical library card just for the Student Success Initiative, where you can actually go back and write in the student's login information. They have that, and they can either use it at the library, or when they're at home, they can flip it over and they know how to log into our digital services online as well too. And so what it gets the student is, along with the collection that's at the Williamston Library here, it gets them access to over 800,000 materials that are in our other 12 locations throughout Ingham County. They can get any of those. They can get hotspots, they can get Chromebooks, they can get iPads. It also opens up to our collection of ebooks and audiobooks, which is around 700,000 to 800,000 items as well. And then those 60 research databases that they can use for their academic work too. And what the process that it takes for us is we would work with you on kind of what we want that student login to be, or student library card number to be. We would craft a letter to parents with that opt-out option, and then we would send it home in any type of correspondence that would be easiest for you to relay to parents. And then once we get it back, we would take out all of the names that have opted out of the program, and then we would basically upload that information, work with your IT department to upload that information to the circulation system at the library, and they would have library cards that they could use either in a physical location or at home using our digital collection as well. And some of the, we haven't had that many hiccups. Again, probably the biggest hiccup was just the younger students truly wanted a physical card to access the collection with. The opt-outs that we've had, parents didn't want, if a student already has a card, we give them 2 cards then. Some parents didn't want that. They only wanted their child to have just 1 library card. So they opted out and they didn't have a Student Success Initiative card. But one of the things that we would like to work with you on is, we know that if you tell a student that they have a library card, although we'd be overjoyed if they did do this, they're probably not going to run out and want to go use that library card right away. It takes initiative and it takes a push either from a parent or from a teacher. And so that's where the success that we've had in other schools like Mason and Holt and Hazlitt is we have all of the teachers have library cards as well too, so that they can incorporate some of the library's collection into their curriculum as well. We've seen that has dramatically increased the level of use for the Student Success Initiative library cards, because our end goal is for them to succeed as students and for them to use the library's collection to help them succeed as students. And I'd be happy to take any questions that you have regarding the program. Yeah.
Does that include access to MelCat?
It does, yeah. So it's basically functions as any type of normal library card would function. It just has that limit of 3 items. And so that MelCat item would count towards your 3 items.
Okay. I have a couple questions.
Yes.
So I know when I took my kids to get their library card, they had to have like a parent-approved card.
Correct.
Where I could log in and see everything that they checked out. Is that allowed under this
It is,
card?
yep, it's definitely allowed. It kind of works the same way as that, and so we would help you develop educational materials for parents so that they know how to set up an account online and log in. Even if they don't do that, they could contact the Williamston branch or any of the Capital Area District Library branches and ask what is checked out on their child's card, and we would be able to relay that
Would they be
information.
able to see what they saw, the digital releases too and things like that, or would it
That's
just
where it
be the
gets a little more
specific
difficult.
books?
Yeah, for that, we would have to develop educational materials and kind of walk the parents through on how they could view that at home.
Okay. So secondly, so you said they're not returned. I mean, so a 10-year-old can check out an iPad, and what happens if they don't return it?
They are returned, and so they just don't have fines or overdue fees. And so what happens if an item is not returned is the account is blocked, and then you can't use that card until the item is returned.
Okay.
And so we know it's a leap of faith for us to that items will get returned, but in all of the other 9 school districts that we've worked with, it has not become a problem.
Okay. And then secondly, does the libraries, I would assume that there's internet access. So
Yep.
would the kids have unrestricted internet access regardless of their age? So if they
No.
were 8 or 10, would they be able to
Nope.
just go in there
So-
with their card and?
No, so these do grant internet access on our public computers at the library. But we get federal funding for our internet service. And part of that, it has to comply with the Child's Internet Protection Act, which means that anyone under the age of 18 has to have a filtered internet session. And so with these cards, You're going to get a filtered internet session. Even with the hotspots that you check out and take home through this, they're filtered as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Scott, you were talking about the things that would have to be developed to be able to make this happen. If we were to vote at our next meeting to approve this, what kind of a turnaround time does it usually take?
We can go as fast as you want. And so again, we've been through this quite a bit, that it's a fairly easy process. Probably the most difficult thing to develop is what we want that student login to be. That's easy enough for students to be able to remember. And then also the correspondence with the parents to update them on the program and give them the opportunity to opt out. As soon as you factor that in, it's probably about a 2-week window then.
And then you talked about parent opt-out. If a parent opts out but then changes their mind down the road?
Really easy, yeah, we just add them back in. So you just need to let us know the student, and then we add them back in. I'm actually glad you asked that, because one of the things that we would work with you on as well too is we know you have students that come into the district and they want to be added as well. And so we would work with you on kind of a schedule to do a student upload so that you know and we know that we have the most recent student list available for us, so we don't have an issue of if you're using it for a class and there's a student not included in that.
I just have one. So when you're talking about this login, is that something that the school district would need to come up with, or can each child come up with their own login, or do you want like a universal?
Do you mean like whatever they would use for the library card number? Yes. Again, it's something that we would work with you on to develop. So I can give you an example of one. So one school district that we worked with, it was the student's first initial, last name, and year that they were going to graduate. And so we thought that would be the easiest way for students to be able to remember, okay, if I want to check something out, I need to know my first initial, last name, and year that I graduate. We know the younger kiddos are probably not going to know the year that they graduated, and that's why we created this.
Can these cards transition into a traditional library card?
Yeah, definitely. And again, for those, as Ms. Conley mentioned, you need parents to come in and move those cards up to a full access card, but you can definitely do that.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other questions? Are we ready to move this for action at our next meeting?
In the meantime, if you do have any questions, Dr. Spina has my contact information. I'd be happy to answer any that you have. Also, if you want to know how it's going at other school districts, again, it's all the other Ingham ISD school districts in our area are currently using it. I know last year was a very odd year for kind of a first initial launch, but we've actually been very happy with the usage for it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The next discussion item is a request for a leave. This looks like a leave for the year. Lynn, Kara, are there any questions for Adam on this? Do you want to say anything about this? Or?
No, I think it's self-explanatory.
Okay. All right, we will move this for action at the next meeting. And then the choir proposal.
So there's a proposal here by our choir program to have a choir club. The idea is to get students interested and really promote the choir program at both the middle and the high school. It also gives students an opportunity that might not be able to fit this into their schedule. It gives them an opportunity to still participate in something that they enjoy. So there's two types of clubs. There's a board sponsored, which means that the board is essentially paying for it, it's financing it. And then there's a board recognized. This would be recognized. So what it does is it allows the group to use our district spaces at no fee per our facilities use policy. The advisor is not paid, but there's also no charge involved, and no pricing that's involved. They can use our logo, the official district name, and so what they're looking for here is just recognition and support that this is started, again, with the end state that it will drive students into the choir program and associated performing arts, both at the middle and the high school.
I have one. It says that it's that given 25 to 35 students, is that a guess that she knows or that she doesn't want to do this if she gets under 25?
Well, that's the goal, but they're not gonna start to recruit or publicize until the board signed off on it. But that's kind of what they're looking at as far as what the number of students that will be involved in.
Is there, like, will this be like, not, like, does she know, like, is this gonna be every day? Is this after school? Is this in the morning? Or is she just hasn't gotten that far?
I think that's something that they'll be able to address once they, once the first step is board approval, and then, they'll start to publicize the word out and hopefully attract students to it, and they can kind of decide how frequently they want to run it.
All right, any other questions? And we're ready to move this for action?
Yep.
Okay. Our action items, the next, can I have a motion for our calendar?
Motion that the Board of Education approve the minutes for the regular meeting held on August 16th, 2021 as presented.
Second? Second. Any discussion?
Yes, since I was not here, number 8C1, which was the requirement of masks for students in grades pre-K through 5, staff visitors in all indoor instructional settings and during instructional hours at Kids Corner, Little Corners Preschool, Discovery Elementary, and Explorer Elementary. That was the motion that was passed, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. I just wanted to make better clarification since I was not here.
And I know where you're going, and we're going to discuss that.
Sure.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next. Can I have a motion for the minutes from our August 16th meeting?
That's what we just did.
That's what we just did.
We just
Oh,
did that.
gosh, I'm sorry, I put my paper. Okay, separate action items. We have our separation agreement with Elizabeth Cruz. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education approve the separation agreement with Elizabeth Prue.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have a whole bunch of policies. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion for the policies?
Motion that the Williamston Board of Education removes policy 9360 and 9360R and revise policies 3950, 2020, 6001, 6050, 6100, 6150, 6400, 8940, and 8940 as a, I'm sure that's probably wrong, as presented.
Second.
Must be an 8940R.
Any discussion?
No, just they've been busy.
They have been busy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next. Sorry, I want to make sure I have that my stuff in order. Okay. The next is our layered polar migration plan. This is where our plan is masked. This is where this is going to come up. It is, we discussed this 2 weeks ago, we set aside the rules. It is up for action at the request of a board member. So what we need to do here is we will entertain a motion. If we get a second, we then open it up for discussion. Based on that discussion, we can, I believe, amend the original motion. If not, we need to either vote for the said motion on the table. So there will be an opportunity for discussion. Again, I get this is heated and emotional, and we all have thoughts and issues on this, so I'm going to ask that we all listen to each other and no interrupting, and have a very positive conversation or discussion. I guess it might not be positive, but able to discuss this with each other. So, do I have a motion for the layered COVID-19 migration plan?
Mitigation.
Mitigation.
Mitigation, what did I say?
Migration.
Migration.
Oh. Do I have a motion?
So if we don't do anything,
What is
it
the-
stays as is. If we make a motion, and it gets seconded, then we have the opportunity to have discussion regarding it. Correct?
We have to have a discussion, yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So, I would make a motion that, we, I don't know, is there, usually we have.
There isn't. Is it just to make a motion to revisit or review?
So it's gotta be his motion, so you
Yeah, so
got.
I'll make a motion that we revisit the layered COVID mitigation plan for 2021, 2022.
Okay. So do I have a second for that?
Second.
Okay.
But revisiting isn't an actionable item.
Well, revisit, yeah, I guess I need to clarify that maybe a little bit more. So meaning, look at what we voted on last time and see
Correct.
what we would like to do.
Correct.
So,
So I don't know what the best way to say that is.
so Betsy, basically Jeff's motion is to, look at our.
Reevaluate.
To reevaluate.
Reevaluate our, pre-K through fifth grade math. Not a policy, motion?
Motion.
No, it's a plan.
Plan?
Plan.
Well, the plan included K-12.
Well, that's the discussion, that's not the motion. The motion is just to look at what we did
2
last
weeks ago.
time
As
and open it up for
right.
discussion.
As was discussed by board members saying that we wanted to be able to discuss it at every meeting, to see where things are and have a candid discussion.
Okay, so, just revisiting this, last 2 weeks ago, we voted to have pre-K through fifth grade in math during instructional time. So I would like, just to make sure that our administrators in those buildings know that it was during instructional time.
But we have to second to the motion.
Julie, you have a second, we have a
Okay.
first. Or Julie.
I second it.
Okay.
So now we're discussing. So I do want to just state that we did, as we look through the minutes, say instructional time during instructional hours, however Chris said that. So it was my, I guess, Chris, it was my intent that kids shouldn't be wearing masks during recess time.
Correct.
During lunchtime, it was during those instructional times. It is federal law that they have to wear them, or federal mandate that they have to wear them on the bus.
Any means of public transportation.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that we are clear on what we did vote for last time and what the intent on that was. Now we will open it up for discussion.
And that included visitors too, right?
Yes, staff, students, staff, and visitors during instructional hours. Right, staff? Or-
Sure, instructional settings, instructional hours.
Yes, okay. Instructional settings, instructional hours. Any discussion?
Well, I'll start. In looking at the notes from the ISD meeting that you guys had and at Linda Vale's comments, I still firmly believe that we are following by recommending having the mask and not mandating. I feel very strongly that this is not about community spread. If it was, it would be mandated. And I feel every day with every fiber that I am that they are just pushing us and separating our families and using it as a tool of blackmail so that we will vaccinate our kids. And that shouldn't be. I shouldn't have to look at, Mrs. Giddings with her young 5 and have her son require vaccination just to have a normal day at school. especially when the science that is out there is saying that vaccinated people are getting sometimes COVID more. I mean, we've been seeing, and we see all this data, and, you know, I'm sitting here thinking, we're talking about vaccinating, not vaccinating, who's gonna get quarantined, and I just see it as a big workaround to where if they really wanted us to be mandated, they can do it. They've done it, and they're not doing it. And I just refuse to be her carrying water girl and push this upon families and separate families from their children and teens from their parents because they want to continue to do this while the parent is trying to make the best decision for them. And the goal of the health department and the Michigan department, and my thing, is just to make their life as horrible as possible so that they just require a vaccine just to get on with it. But there's not much out there regarding vaccine that is giving them freedom. I mean, we have cases that are positive vaccinated. We know that vaccinated people can spread it, which annoys me, no doubt, with the quarantine rules. So if we have somebody quarantined, everybody that's unvaccinated has to quarantine, but not the vaccinated person. They don't even have to test. It's recommended for them to test. It's not even required for them to test within 3 to 5 days. They can continue to go to school. They can continue to spread it if they have it, and nobody would ever know the difference, and it would all fall on the shoulders of those darn unvaccinated kids are out there spreading COVID to everybody. And it's just, it's mind-boggling to me that we as a school board and as a community don't stand up to our health departments and say, this is your responsibility. It is not ours. If you're really in the mode of protecting us and this is such a dire situation, then you can make that call yourself. I will remind that there's still not one child between the ages of 0 and 9 that have died in the state of Michigan from COVID. There's been 16 kids between 10 and 19 that have died from COVID. Statistically, I was looking up, so there was 38,414 cases of COVID between 0 and 9 age, 0 deaths. 112,392 cases of 10 through 19, 16 deaths. This is per the Ingham County Health Department, or per the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. So I don't see that there's a risk to our youngins. I mean, I know that they say, I still cannot seem to find data out there. If I go to the CDC, I can't find, every headline is like, overwhelming hospitalizations of pediatric units. Yet when I go to the Florida Health Department website, I can't seem to find that information. It's like everything seems to be within articles, and I've brought proven facts, they've brought proven facts. Israel just did a study of 1.2 million people that's under peer review right now, showing how natural immunity is better than vaccinated immunity. And I just think that we need to start thinking that we're not scientists, and we need to really give it up to the parents, because those are the ones. And we're worried about COVID, and they're worried about suicide. They're worried about depression. This, poor lady, she has to, calm her son down from asthma every day when he gets home from school with an ice pack for an hour before he can calm down and go out and play. I mean, that's not what we should be doing to our kids. That's not what we're in the business. And if it shuts our school down, Adam, which I know that's a concern, if you have everybody on mask, then we're all close contacts and our school shuts down. It's an unfortunate thing, but that needs to be put on the health department and the state legislators. Right. They need to then be voted out by our constituents if they don't want our school closed. I just don't find it going, I don't find me voting yes. I do think it's in the best interest of the kids to be in school, absolutely. But I'm not going to be put in a position of saying, I'm going to put them in masks just so they can stay in school. Because that just doesn't help the problem. It just pushes the can down the road and allows them to continue to use us to do their bidding for us. And I'm just not going to be put in that position. That's it.
Anyone else?
Yeah. I live with a scientist. I believe in the science. I don't believe in politics. I believe that there's a lot of misinformation regarding vaccinations, history of vaccinations, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. But the CDC on August 5th came out with guidance for K through 12 with the uptick in the Delta variant. And because I have a child who goes to school down south, I'm paying attention to what's going on. and I've watched what's gone on at her university over the last first week of school, the amount of positive cases. That's not to say that's what's going to happen in Michigan, but we know that things kind of happen a certain way. When we look at the guidance from the CDC, and I would encourage all board members to go to cdc.gov, because on the cdc.gov it says regarding what was done the last meeting, it says that what was done was the right thing. It says many schools serve children under the age of 12 who are not eligible for vaccinations. At this time, therefore, the guidance emphasizes implementing layered prevention strategies, e.g. example, using multiple prevention strategies together continuously to protect students, staff, teachers, staff, visitors, and other members of their households in supporting in-person, to support in-person learning. It further goes on to say plenty of other things. It's quite a long article. Talks about prevention, promoting vaccination, consistent and correct mask use, and the orders regarding during school transportation. There's a number of things there: physical distancing, screening and testing, low, moderate, substantial, high. Regarding students, what's supposed to happen K through 12. These are all things that have been brought down to the state level. The state level has then brought those down to the local governments. Ventilation, hand washing, respiratory etiquette, staying at home when sick, getting tested, contact tracing, all these different things, cleaning and disinfecting. It talks about all these different things. And I go back to where we were a year ago, when we didn't have kids in school. And the reasons, the rationale we didn't have kids in school is because we as a school system can't do many of these things. We can't keep kids 6 feet apart and keep everybody in school at the same time. We don't have the manpower or the man hours, or honestly, people who would want to come and work to come and disinfect every place every kid is touched. So we have to take certain strategies and mitigation strategies to keep everybody safe. So, when you're dealing with this thing and you decide A, not to get a vaccination, or B, not to wear a mask, I'm not wearing a mask today because I'm vaccinated. I'm also not wearing a mask because I believe that if COVID was to, because vaccinations aren't Teflon. I mean, they're not some, you're wrapped around and it can't come in your body. Never was. So I don't know, whether other board members thought that potentially, or where the people who talked about this stuff on the media said things, but infections are going to come in your body. It's a matter of how your body handles it. And vaccinations are to help the body rid it or have lesser effect, not have hospitalizations. Maybe have a minor cold rather than potentially be on a ventilator. I've got some friends that are on ventilators. I've been on ventilators in the last couple of weeks. They were unvaccinated here in the state of Michigan. So, I just think that what was decided by 4 board members would have been 5 board members, since that was kind of asked. Public comment. I fully support the fact that we've got kids who can't protect themselves in school, but I don't know that the way that it has been portrayed to us, how things have happened, and if that's the way they've been happening, shouldn't have happened. I believe that a child should have to wear a mask on the bus because that is a federal mandated. I believe that a child should be, when they're sitting at their table in the classroom, should be wearing a mask. When they go out for recess, I don't care what the temperature is. Heck, in the winter, they may want to, if we're in this position in the winter, they may want to wear the mask because they'll keep their face warm. But I don't think that they should be in the heat with that. I do think that that's just not a good measure. during the basketball season last year, the girls and the boys indoors were wearing masks, playing basketball. Many girls, because I know more of the girls' situation than the boys, they were swapping out their masks every quarter, sometimes at timeouts, because you sweat and it's hard to breathe. You know, I go back to when I was in elementary school. For those of you who know me or know people who knew me, I wasn't that kid that just sat there, you know, stayed quiet. I was the one that the teacher said, Jeff, or Jeffrey, or Mr. West, however they wanted to address me. I need you to look at my eyes. I want you to watch my nose and my mouth as I'm talking to you. And I don't know whether that's possible or not. It's a belief of mine that, you know, teachers are effective when people can see them communicating. I was a communication major in college. I do know how decibels go. I do know that a mask, and I will say, as I was listening to our board meeting, I couldn't hear some of you guys, okay? And we got microphones right in front of us. It does affect how people hear, and what one student can hear and how another student hears is different. I'm in my 50s. I know that I don't hear as well as I did when I was 18. I just know it. I mean, I still listen to music occasionally loud. But I do think that masks are not an effective way of communication. I don't. But I also believe we got to worry about what's the safety and what can and cannot be administered by our administration and our teachers. So, you know, I've said from the beginning, I'm going to support anything that our administration says. We have a mitigation plan that was put in place. I'm going to support that. And, you know, based on where numbers are, which I think we've got some updated numbers that seem to be on the uptick. You know, there's probably some things that maybe need to be adjusted from the last meeting.
So Jeff, I just have a question. So you quoted, I like looking at real data, and that's not real data to me. And your wife's a scientist. So looking at the real data and scientific studies that have been there since 1985, which I know you've looked at, and they said masks for viruses don't work. And the WHO even says masks for children, especially under the age of 12, because of the way they wear them, it's very unlikely that they were going to stop the spread of a virus. I mean, they can cough, but the reality in the real world in the study is that droplet is dropping to the ground pretty quick. But the 99% that's already getting out by them just talking to people, if they have COVID, is already out. It's the mask can't stop it. I mean, would you agree with that? I mean, so I mean, that being said, if you add in the other things, the cons against it, why would you consider thinking that that would be a good mitigation?
So what I understand is that potentially 30% of the droplets can be protected by the mask.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to protect you from ingesting it. I mean, there's people in multiple states that say that, you know, they can still smell and, you know, deal with the embers that are whatever that are in the air from the fires that are out west. So, you know, I'm not going to say that it's a perfect solution, but when the CDC is making a recommendation, just as the CDC has made recommendations for all these years regarding a number of vaccinations in the FDA, regarding vaccinations that people should be taking whether to go to school. And since our last meeting, I believe it came out somewhere right around the 9:30 hour, the market had just opened, that Pfizer now has a approved, not just a emergency use, a full approval vaccination for people that are 12 and over.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm sure that, you know, depending on data from other companies, you know, things are happening. It's not just the 3 companies that are out there that are doing research on this.
I think the Pfizer is 16 and over, isn't it?
No, it's 12.
Oh, is it 12?
No, it's 12.
12 and
Okay.
over. So, you know, they gave full approval of the drug to where a pharmaceutical company can give it a name Not only can a pharmaceutical company give it a name, they can also promote it. Emergency use drugs cannot. So when I went to school, had a long list of vaccinations that I was supposed to take before I went to school. My parents never asked the question. They just did what they were supposed to do because they trusted. And you know, I believe that, you know, there's reasons for vaccinations. I get my flu shot every year.
I will make note, it is for 16 and over.
It is
Because
16
at
and
this FDA, I was pretty sure, it's still emergency use for 12 to 15.
Okay, yes. All right, so we got 16 and over.
Okay, anybody else?
I was also not available to join the last meeting, unfortunately. Echoing what Jeff said, it would have been 6 board members voting in approval. I'll also point out that the language of the information from the ISD says the CDC has recommended universal masking for all the districts. You can't have universal masking and make it a choice. That doesn't work that way. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
Well, we did. I mean, we made it a choice to leave out people that could already get the vaccine. So to me, it seems like we're more trying to get people the fear of making your kids get vaccinated. We didn't make it for middle school or high school.
We're discussing masking, not conspiracy theories to push people into vaccinations.
I'm just saying, if you want to recommend, if you want to follow their recommendation, why aren't we K through 12?
I think we should be.
I think we should.
I think we should move it to make it K through 12.
I mean, maybe we should be discussing that and putting that out.
Sounds
Because
great.
I'm just looking, if you seem to just concentrate on right now, only 30% of middle schoolers are vaccinated.
I understand.
So we still have 70% of parents that chose not to vaccinate their kids.
At this point in the
I mean,
meeting,
that's
we're
been
discussing
available for
the
quite a while.
current policy in place.
Yeah. I was just making point of, you said we're not.
Duly noted.
And we did.
Anybody else?
We've received a lot of comment, and the community is clearly divided, but I just feel we have to look at the science and follow the recommendations of our health department and the state of Michigan, our Health and Human Services, and the CDC, and I would like to see all of our students in K-12 wear masks at this point in time while we are in a substantial risk category, because the plan that we have has several layers, and this is a time of higher risk because of the Delta variant, which again, we didn't know about or hadn't even heard the picture during our last parent survey. And I think we have just as many people who would like to see masks as do not. It's really an even split. And maybe everyone wishes it was the health department or the governor that was deciding this, but that's not the case. So it's our job, and I feel to keep kids in the classroom. This is the mitigation tool that is most effective to keeping kids in the classroom.
And I just want to correct that. I don't think we are insubstantial at this point. I think, Adam, you said it was 6.4 was our positivity, which still puts us in the low to, on the very low side of moderate.
We're actually 6.9.
6.9, well, substantial would be 8 to 9.9 and 10% higher.
And that's on which?
That's on Ingham County's website. They're great.
Yeah, I'm on the website as well. It says is considered an area of substantial COVID transmission, Ingham County.
Yeah, well, I understand that, but when you click the grid that says it, it doesn't show that we're insubstantial.
Should we make policy changes after the risk has already been established, or should we try to get in front?
No, I think our health officials should make that decision.
They should, but if they've chosen not to, it's on us to do something.
I don't know who appointed me to be parents of other parents. They didn't appoint me to do that.
Okay.
We keep getting this presented as a choice, but how many of you chose what vaccines to give to your kids before they came to school?
Right here.
All of them did. You can opt out of a vaccine.
How many of you opted out of the dress code we have in place?
Can I say something? I think it's very important. No, I'm going to stop. No, I'm going to call you out of order.
Fair enough.
This is our discussion here, not for out there. So he did. And I'm calling him out of order, ma'am, so thank you. I am going to piggyback on what what Amanda said, you know, this isn't, for me, this is not about who's getting vaccinated, who's not getting vaccinated, who believes in masks, who doesn't believe in masks, who believes in this science, who believes in that science. I can Google, I mean, I sat here and I pulled it up and I found 3 studies that are saying masks work. And they have links to the actual study. So, like, that's Google, that's where you are, the reputable medical schools that are doing it. So, for me, it's about keeping our kids in school. And I think whoever you are, we are all in agreement, we want our kids in school. So, right now, if we have one kid test positive to COVID, wherever they are, that could take out 30 kids or more. And depending on, and we do not control how we isolate, how we quarantine, how we go down that is all already determined for us. And we just have to follow the charts that they give us. So, you know, for me, I think, like, if masks are going to help us keep our kids in school, I am not saying forever. If we get to September 20th, our next board meeting, and our numbers in percentage from 6.9 or whatever Jeff just said it is down to 3, then we reevaluate this. This chart is fluid. If the shot comes out for 12 to 5-year-olds in September and we relook at this in October and our numbers are down, then we move in a different direction. So right now, my focus is keeping our kids in school. That is where our focus should be. Keeping what is in the best interest of our kids and keeping them in school. With saying that, it was like 90 degrees here, I think, last week. I really am concerned that our kids are wearing masks outside. That is concerning. I also get that our buses don't have air. And we don't get a choice in that either. So we have to work within those guidelines that we have. So for me, I just need to keep our kids in school. We need to do whatever we can. I feel that I need to vote and do whatever I can to keep our kids in school. Anybody else? Okay. So we did, Jeff, are you looking at doing any amendments to your motion at this time?
Well, we're gonna follow what should have been done. It'd be to make a motion that we include 6th graders, actually anyone under the age of 12, along with staff, student staff visitors, to wear masks during instructional hours. And I would say in the classroom, in hallways, but not at recess when they're outside. So during instructional setting, not if they're outside and they use the outdoor classroom, then they're outside. When you can't get 6 feet of social distancing maintained. So if you're in the classroom and you get 6 feet of social distancing, then there would be possibly an option. Because the 6 feet of social distancing is one of the recommended CDCs. If you can get 6 feet, then.
So if I'm not going to put words in your mouth.
No, I don't.
So I just want to ask, are we we're adding 6th grade to our
Mitigation.
So basically, we're adding 6th grade to our mitigation. Is that what you're?
Well, I do have a concern that, you know, if we're dealing with kids that are under 12, we have some 7th graders probably for another month that could be in that boat too. So, but I don't know how you can actually do that.
So my guess is that then if we do have 12-year-olds that are in 7th grade, it'd be a small number because.
You mean 11-year-olds? Yes. Yes, it'd be very small.
Because the September being, like 5 on September 1st, I think that class is in 8th grade now.
Yeah, I used to have those numbers that I brought up to every meeting, except this one, because I always expected that question, but it's very low. I think 7th graders, it's less than 10, if I remember correctly.
So I think that would be that's up to you. So are you recommending that we just add 6th grade?
And you said there was 10 kids in 6th grade that were, how many?
7. seventh that are under 12, if I remember correctly.
In seventh grade.
Oh, in seventh, okay. So you're okay with the seventh grade under 12, just not the sixth grade?
I would rather have everybody that's under 12 years old. So you're dealing with 7 kids.
Yeah, I mean, I need to go verify, but we did that over the summer, we looked at those numbers, and we just didn't bring that with us.
I don't want to put something that's unmanageable. Because
I think having, I would have concern about pulling out 7 kids in seventh grade.
Can't hear you back here.
She said she would have a concern with pulling out 7 kids from seventh grade and requiring them to wear masks.
But it's yours, so you
yeah,
tell me what you want.
but before I do that, so Adam, our layered COVID-19 mitigation plan right now, with the positive cases that we have, where are we?
So
I'm looking at the spreadsheet.
Yeah, so we're in a moderate posture, K5, for K5, and you would be in a low posture, 6-12 currently.
Okay, so we're in a moderate for K5, which says masks, face coverings required for staff and students at the applicable buildings, while indoors for periods of time determined by the health department. So we're there. So what was done 2 weeks ago, now, because we have kids in school and positive cases, we are following what we had agreed to months ago regarding following this plan, correct? So we're really not doing anything different other than for a week we had people and now we have positive cases. Okay.
If we got, so I just want to remind people, you know, Adam still has this power. If we at the high school tomorrow come up with a case, 10 cases, 20 cases, I mean, he according to this chart and what we have said, the building has to be masked. Like that contact tracing, all of that stuff is followed, and then those kids are in masks. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be like a massive.
Right, well, and that's the one question I had was how many, because when I was reading, I mean, when Adam did this COVID, I was assuming that the areas of risk would be determined by Ingham County Health Department, right? So, but I feel now that, I mean, we're gonna be a moderate for most of the time. So that's why I was kind of confused where we were isolating out certain grades and then we had certain grades that weren't. Like if one is in the high school, that automatically puts us in moderate and the whole high school is under masking. I mean, because if that's the case, it's kind of, we shouldn't really have this because I don't know if this school year will ever get to a low. I mean, once we're all in place, I mean, it's going to spread. I mean, we kind of, I think most people, I mean, we're here at the elementary school, we have, I mean, we're going to have cases. So when I'm just saying, when I got this in August, I guess I was thinking going from green to yellow would be something that would be based on the Ingham County kind of stuff, but I don't know how we can be low in the high school. We're low just because we don't have one case, but once we have one case, we'd move to moderate.
Well, I guess I want to clarify that because it depends. I mean, we do have staff that have no interaction with students ever, depending on what they did. So in my head, and I guess correct me if I'm wrong, if that staff person came and gave us a call and said, I'm COVID positive, we have to follow the protocol that we have with the contact tracing. If they haven't been around anybody, then I would not assume that we are going to, you know, shut down a building, put on a mask, like go like, whoop, because that person hasn't been in contact with anyone. If we have a student, I think that is a totally different animal in a sense, because that student can be who knows where. So I guess that's why I think if we have a student, you have one student, the chances of having more, unless that student hasn't been in our buildings for 48 hours or around kids. So I think that's where it's, like, we can't say, or it's very hard for me to say, if this happens, we're going to do this, if this happens, it does this. If we have a kid that Sunday, like, hasn't been in school in a week, and then tests positive for COVID, that response is going to be different versus a kid who's been in school all week long, possibly a sports team, possibly extracurricular extracurricular activities test positive, that reaction is.
But if you had like one kid, where would we be if we had one kid that was vaccinated who wore a mask, who came up positive? Would that, I mean, does Linda Vale like say like, that doesn't need because they wore a mask?
No.
I mean, if you,
No, they have to be isolated and they.
no, I mean, I'm talking about them, I'm talking about other people.
Those
So like,
people around will have to be quarantined.
Yeah.
even though he was wearing a mask. That's what I was kind of figuring out, like, if mask is a mitigation to close this, like, you were reading what Linda said, and is it less than 3 feet? If you're not wearing a mask, you still have to quarantine. So that means we could still choose today to mask everybody in the high school, have a positive case, and it take out 30
I think
people.
we need Adam to jump in here.
Well,
on
hold on. So one thing is,
isolation.
what Linda said was based on information as of August 11th. This thing is continuously changing, so Adam, yes.
Correct.
I mean, that's why I said and have said and will continue to say that I am going to follow and support what our superintendent has to say regarding this, because he is talking to other superintendents, talking to the ISD super who also live in Williamston. He's talking to our health department people. They're being communicated with on daily, every other day, what have you. I'm not a health person.
But you're mandating.
Wait, nope.
I am following the recommendation of what the CDC says.
You're exceeding the recommendation of what the CD says.
Okay, right now, we're gonna have Adam answer your question about your math.
My masking. If the students are masked, what do we look at if we have students masked?
So in an environment where all the students are masked, I think what you're asking is, for the contact tracing purposes, who's quarantined?
Yes.
In an environment where all the students are masked, it has to be less than 3 feet in order to have a quarantine, a required quarantine. In an environment where all the students are not masked, that expands out to 6 feet.
So are our elementary school desks more than 3 feet?
It depends on the structure of the room, but remember that elementary school often moves between different learning structures within the classroom, depending on what's going on in the way the teachers design the class. And I would say the same would be true even at secondary, right? Even if you're in a research lab, the way you're interacting with your classmates and the teacher, it's going to look different. Or if you're in a PE class, it's going to look different than if you're in more of a social studies math class. So it really just depends on what those structures and environments look like.
Okay.
So could this could be a possibility. So we have a particular class where the students are, like a science class or something, where students are in those big lab tables. They're 6 feet apart, they're all in masks. Someone in that class tests positive for COVID. We don't necessarily have to quarantine the whole class because they're in masks and it's more than 6 feet.
That class might be the one that gets excluded.
But those kids
Right.
stay in school technically, because we have one student, they were in masks, they were.
The other 5
16,
hours.
right?
If they're all in masks, then you only quarantine if you're less than 3 feet away for cumulative 15 minutes of exposure.
Okay, so in that scenario, if they were in masks, they had the 6 feet, they would be able to stay in school. If they were not in masks, we would have to follow, we would go down the.
They have to quarantine unless they can show
That they're
they're
vaccinated. So-
vaccinated.
But if they wore the mask during the day and then they played volleyball at night, their whole volleyball team would be quarantined because they don't wear masks
Well,
playing
and then it's
volleyball.
gonna be that domino with contact tracing. This
Yeah.
is, I mean, literally, when you think about this and you go down a rabbit hole, we have to do this at the ISD. We've already had kids test positive at the ISD. It takes hours and hours to follow this path. It is not easy.
Right.
So, there is not gonna be an easy answer, but anybody else? Otherwise, we can.
I'm good.
So right now, we have a amended motion to add 6th grade to the map, to add math. So now we are preschool through 6th grade during instructional times, during instructional hours. Someone help me how it's stated. Is that what you're?
During instruction time, instructional hours, and
So it's
Only
this-
indoors.
So it is students. Betsy, do you have the motion from last time? I mean, you don't have to get it from me, I just want to make sure we get it so you, and I
I
want to make
understand what
sure.
it is. I mean, that's right. It's instructional hours, indoors, in the classroom settings, instructional settings. Not outdoor.
Okay,
Because the CDC does not recommend outdoors.
correct, okay. So that is what's on the table, preschool through sixth grade. Do I have a second for that motion? The amended motion. Second. Sarah, second that amended motion.
Well, Nancy, I don't understand procedurally, what if we wanted to go beyond that, we'd have.
You'd have to vote this down.
If we wanted to go sixth grade through, and I'm sorry I'm stuttering because I want to make sure that I do this procedurally correctly. If we wanted to go sixth grade through 12th grade, that would be a separate, that we would vote this down, and another motion would need to come to the table to do sixth grade through 12th grade. But with saying that, please remember that if we get positive cases tomorrow, Adam has the power and is following this chart to make sure everybody has masks until, while we're in that category. So I just want to make sure everyone's clear before I call the vote.
I don't think I am yet, sorry, so.
So right now, what you're voting for is,
But if I vote
If you vote,
yes,
if
I want
you
to
vote
support that,
yes,
then I can't support a motion that says
Well, if
that
we-
we want to go for 612?
is that the discussion?
so hold on. So because we have a motion on the floor and a
Yes.
second, we don't
Yes.
have discussion. But to clarify what the vote would be, if you got a vote yes means that it's going to be sixth grade through pre-K and further down with masks. A no vote means that you don't agree with that option, and further discussion may need to take place, for which, as Nancy just mentioned, 6th through 12 could be on the table. So, based on what you're telling me, would be, I can't tell you how to vote. Okay, but a no vote means we continue to discuss, and then you can bring whatever to the floor that you'd like to during discussion.
But what Nancy just said was that tomorrow, if we had 2 cases in the high school, we did the contact tracing, and Adam says we've got to move the high school to moderate level, that automatically would make the entire high school go masks because of the mitigation plan that we've already put in place. So,
And it doesn't have, depending on the Constitution Act, it doesn't have to be 2 kids.
no, it could be
Just
one. It could be one.
Yeah, great. Just talk about what's in there.
Absolutely, I would love to.
So the reason we put that in there, which is the yellow column, is because if we get into a situation where the board's not gonna have time to respond, and based on contact tracing, we see that we're potentially gonna have a lot of kids out of school, that gives me the autonomy to be reactive in a case where you're just not gonna have the time to get a meeting together and go through the process. And an example would be the school in Livingston, who, is not mandated masks across the district, but the school's lost so many students at this point, they've put a temporary mask order in effect to keep the students that are left in the school there. Because the outbreak is in the 3 digits now in terms of the number of kids that are out of that school.
The next
So at
county
that
over,
point,
correct?
what's
You said
that?
Livingston, the next county over.
Yeah, and it's just an example,
Right.
and they're not alone, but I think the point is just that at that point, when you're looking at a contact tracing situation, when so many students out, then, as educators, what are we doing at that point, because they're not at school? So it gives that autonomy to try to use that additional layers and means to try to shut the outbreak down temporarily until the board can reconvene and decide if you want to make a more deliberate change. So that's why that's.
So Amanda, are you,
I think I have it.
are you good?
Is this going to be a roll call or can you speak up, please?
Say that again.
Is this going to be a roll call vote or just a?
Roll call, should be.
can call for, we can do a roll call. I just want to make sure before we're voting, everyone is clear on what we're voting for. You are voting to put kids in masks in instructional areas during instructional times, pre-K through 6th grade. That's where we're at right now. Okay. I have a first, I have a second. Amanda, can you take us through roll call, please?
Amanda, I'm saying no. Chris?
Aye.
Dave?
No.
Jeff?
Yes.
Julie?
No.
Sarah?
Yes.
And Nancy?
Can you tell me where we are right now?
No, I was too caught up. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna do that again. That's my fault, I apologize.
No. I think you're right, I'm last. I just want to make sure that I'm breaking my tie.
It's 3-3.
It's 3-3?
Mhm.
I'm going to say yes. Okay. So, masks will be worn pre-K through 6th grade during instructional hours and times at this point. If we have a breakout in any of the other buildings, Adam still has his power to do what he needs to do before our meeting. And this will be back, under the same area back in September, and hopefully there'll be other information for us to be pulling out. Okay, next, this is a roll call vote also, Amanda. So, certification of winter taxes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, and it's going to be a long one because I have to say all of this. I make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education hereby certifies the following tax levies for the 2021 winter property tax collections, and that the Secretary and President of the Board of Education may sign the final certification of taxes for all taxing units. For collection within the township of Eldine, Leroy, Lock, Wheatfield, and Williamstown, 17.8380 mils for general operations, non-homestead only, 3.3000 mils for the 1996 debt, 3.0000 mils for the 2015 refinancing, 1.5400 mils for the 2015 school bond loan fund refinancing, 0.9869 mils for the sinking fund, 0.7321 mils for the recreation fund. For collection within the township of Meridian and the city of Williamston, 8.9190 mils for the general operations, non-homestead only. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's the roll call.
I'm sorry.
That's roll call.
I messed up that.
Amanda, yes. Chris?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
And Nancy?
Yes.
Motion is passed unanimously.
Okay. Next are our review of our board goals. They're there. You guys can read those. We do have a correspondence from a staff member that's in there for your situational awareness. And now we are at the end portion of our meeting where we have citizen comments again. You have 3 minutes to address the board. This can be about anything on the agenda. I will give you a 1-minute warning.
No, this can be about anything, not anything on the agenda.
Anything.
It can be about anything, right. It doesn't just have to be agenda item, sorry. So I ask you to step to the podium and give your name and address, and I will start timing.
Hi, my name is Kelly Zalma. I live at 734 South Putnam. My daughter's a sixth grader, and so you are going to mandate that she wears a mask, but in her Spanish class, she has seventh graders. So how are you protecting her versus that seventh grader? And then they're in the hallways together, so that's not instructional. There's not a single parent here that is giving you kudos for what you have done. Not one. So you need to listen to the parents and stop making decisions based on what you think is correct. Because we are here, these are our kids. Adam can take the time and he can, if he decides to make everybody wear a mask, that's fine. Parents need to have a choice. We are all here voicing our opinion. Not one parent pro-mask is here. I think you need to recognize that.
Dan Rhines, 923 William Street. I understand you guys are in a really tough spot. I am an elected official in the area as well. I found it very interesting when a board member, you guys have to be able to conduct a meeting, but there needs to be a very large disruption before anyone starts talking about making a phone call. I've been in meetings on that side of the table with unhappy people, and we've never had to make a phone call. So when we start talking about making a phone call, that's an escalation. That it needs to be very serious, but before you go there. We have an Open Meetings Act. If you clear a room, I don't know what happens with that, but that's a pretty serious deal. That's my thoughts.
I want to tell about the phone call thing. You already know my name and address. This whole thing is fear-driven. You guys are caving completely into absolutely no respect for your community. You're failing your community. This is fear-driven. It's division-driven. Too small-minded to see it. We got people threatening, people that say they care the most, that didn't even come here for the most important thing that ever happened to these children. Didn't even bother to come here. If you can't see how emotional people are, these are our children, not yours, not yours, not yours, not yours, not yours, yours. I'd like to babysit mine. We have people talking about masks who, through their mask, I can count their teeth in the back row. Support them though. They support them. Once again, what I read you the first time, when there are no mandates, who exactly gave you the authority? Not your governor, not DHS, not Linda. Nobody gave you the authority. Not one soul in here, or 75% of your community that participated in your little thing that you sent out and completely ignored. Are you guys prepared to take full responsibility for my family, for their families, children getting sick, because you completely ignored all the information that we've given you in 2 meetings over the dangers of wearing them stinking things and what grows in them? I am perfectly prepared to deal with you guys with any asset I have in my life as a board and individually. If you do any damage or any harm whatsoever to my child, anybody in my family, or anybody in their family, you guys are out of line, you're out of control, you do not listen to your community. That's your only job, is to listen to your community, and you simply refuse to. You're all, except for you, are a huge disappointment.
First of all, I'd like to point out my name is Megan Shellington. I do not believe Dr. Adam Spina can actually give an unbiased vote on this. You're supposed to be non-discriminatory and not biased when you make this decision. However, Dr. Spina does have access to classified military documents and seems to want to treat students and parents like we are one of their subordinates, one of his soldiers. And that's not fair. And secondly, I don't know if anybody in this room is absolutely at all aware of the Stanford prison studies. It was a 2-week-long study, 14 days, where volunteers were put in 2 categories: guards, prisoners. Prisoners were not ever been a prisoner before. Guards were never actually a guard before. And you guys can Google the grueling details of what happened to these volunteers and the 14 days of hell they went to. And the only thing that came of this study is that when we give people unrelenting power, they take advantage of it.
Amen.
Anybody else?
Thorburn, 1804 East Columbia Road. I would just ask that if you are going to be following CDC guidelines, then I would also ask that you remove masks from students while they were participating in active gym class. The CDC also said it's not healthy for students to exercise with masks on, so I would ask you kindly to put that under consideration, as it is not instructional in terms of math and science and sitting at desk. You're actually running around. And my son had to pull down his mask several times today in the corner to breathe. So we are expressing our concern over our child's right to breathe healthy, carbon dioxide air that they're breathing into themselves. If you have a problem with them wearing that in recess in 90-degree weather, I don't know why you're not concerned about them wearing it in gym class as well. Thank you.
My name's Marcy Shepler. I just want to say that I work for the state of Michigan, and I will tell you the protocol with the state of Michigan in the Grand Tower is if someone there comes down with COVID, you are made aware of it by email. They have a team come in and clean the premises, and you're right back to work tomorrow unless you tested positive for COVID. So I don't understand when we talk about how hard it would be to clean the school. The Grand Tower is 14 floors, huge building. They make whatever needs to be done possible so that the work for the citizens of Michigan can still get done. Obviously, if you test positive, then you are quarantined, but not the entire place. That is Governor Whitmer's policy with the state building of the Grand Tower. The other thing I would like to say is that I would like to have any parent that's interested can contact me to supply some masks for testing, and I would like to personally get them to some labs, see what these young kids, young children have on these masks. And I'm going to say this, again, like everyone has said, we voted you in. Won't happen again, because I'm sure people are taking some names. I plan on sitting on this board next election, and I will be in one of those chairs, okay? I hope a whole lot of others are as well, because I have learned I am on the township board of my township, and I listen to what my people say. That is my job. Regardless of how I feel, I listen to what my people of my township, the majority. If you think for 2 meetings I've come here and sat over 3 hours because of the care for my 5-year-old granddaughter, if you think this is fun and I have nothing better to do, it is not, nor for all of them. We are here because we are highly concerned on what you're doing. So for those that want to see me after for the mask, and I am going to tell you all this, when these masks come back and this, I am liably going to see what I can do, because Weberville, no mask. If every single school district had masks and the governor mandated masks, I would not be standing here tonight. But the fact that you, however many, minus you, are voting this in when my granddaughter's mask comes back saying that there is meningitis or pneumonia on this mask because you feel the need. I can walk into Chili's when they had the mask mandate, sit down at a table and take it off. As long as I got from the door to the table, it's off. But these kids got to sit in it at a desk. Whatever conditions we need to do, move the desk, change the room, whatever needs to be done. And secondly, I just want to say that count day is October 6th and February 9th. And I hope you all put that on your calendars. Because if you are not going to work for us, then I don't think we should work for you.
Liz Malish again. I just have a request that everybody who wants the kids a mask, not you, to wear a mask for 8 hours. Every single school day. Do not take it off. Be as active as kindergartner through 6th graders. Be as active as they are. And report back to us next board meeting and let us know how you feel.
Anyone else?
Gail Gibbs in Weberville. I just want to start by that I think we can all respect that we all have different opinions on things, and that's part of life. That's just how we learn to be adults. But I also think to an extent, like respecting each other's decisions and listening to each other and our point of views and understanding what we want and maybe why. But as a parent, standing here and having all these other parents behind me that have said, no, we want the choice. When I sat on all the board calls last year for remote learning, there were people speaking on both sides of it. There were people that were like, we need to say virtual. We have our teachers. We need to say virtual for this. We had parents that were, nope, I want my child to have a choice. I want to go back. And I remember Jeff saying specifically, we need to give our parents a choice. They want a choice. And there's not a single parent behind me that has spoke tonight on the other side of it. Right. Not a single parent. But last year when we were doing these calls, you had parents on both sides. And you've taken complaints and worries for our children, and you've just wiped it under you're just like, nope, nope. The CDC says we're going to recommend it. So instead of recommending it, we're going to require it. I don't care if your child has a health problem and can't speak and that your kid doesn't want to talk to other kids. I don't care if they make friends. I don't care if their teacher doesn't know what they're saying. I don't care if they fall behind educationally because they're not learning. That's your problem at home. It's not mine because I'm going to require a mask. So when I have to explain to my 5-year-old why he's repeating a grade, why he doesn't have friends, can I just bring him here and have him stand in front of all of you and have you explain to him that? What? How do you get to make that choice? Do any of you have children at home with special needs?
You have 1 minute.
Do any of your children at home have asthma? Do they come home crying because they can't breathe behind their mask? Does their face mask come home soaked? Do you cry at night when you watch your child go to sleep because you know tomorrow's just going to be just as much of a hell day as the day before?
Yeah.
Because that's what we're going through. We're here to tell you that. And none of you are listening. Chris has been writing the whole time that all of these parents have been talking. You might not have to agree with me, but you can at least act like you're listening.
I'm writing what you're saying. Thank you.
You don't care. Just don't care.
It's just hard. Parents want to be heard. We're not doing it to be difficult. I'm not doing it to be difficult. I'm doing it because I have a 5-year-old that I'm terrified for. And I want to be able to do what I can for him, and I can't even do that for him. I have to go to him and tell him I fought as hard as I could, but I couldn't do it.
Fine. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Brett Olexon at 996 Glazer Road, Williamston. I don't envy any of you. but I do pity you. And the reason I pity you is because you've chosen to stand between parents and take sides with the CDC. We all know that masks don't work.
Right.
And you know how we know that? Because everybody wants to get a shot. If mask works, you wouldn't need a shot. If 2 masks, Jeff said that mask, he thinks 30%, right? Well, so 2 masks would be 60%. Add 6 feet to that, you're probably at 90%. Masks didn't work. We know they didn't work. We've heard other things. How many of you have done research on the pollutants in a mask and the danger to them? How many of you done that? I don't believe probably too many. However, we also know the vaccine doesn't work. We know that you can still get COVID. We know you can still carry COVID. We know that you can still die from COVID, end up in the hospital from COVID. And we know that, don't we?
Yes, we do.
So why are we even talking? The CDC said something, but guess what? The governor isn't compelled.
Right.
She didn't mandate it, did she? She left it to you. Ingham County Health Department wasn't compelled by your CDC. They didn't mandate it.
Right.
It was left to you. So why do you think you're compelled when the county wasn't and the governor wasn't? That doesn't speak about the situation. I think it speaks about you and what you're trying to do here. I think you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Absolutely.
I think you all know that this is a bunch of fuss over nothing, and you're just worried about protecting your own rear ends.
Yes.
That's why you want to side with the CDC, so you can say, if anything goes wrong, I sided with them. Well, you're real brave, aren't you?
You have 1 minute.
You're real brave. You got one person here that's listening to the rest of us.
Right.
And we love her.
I don't know her. I don't love her. I don't know any of you. I don't love you either. I'm just talking straight. Where's common sense at? I didn't hear one lick of common sense. You trying to explain what happens if a kid gets COVID and how many feet is another person and whether they had a mask. You know, this is like a combination lock that nobody knows the answer to. And you know it. This is a bunch of hogwash.
Right.
I just want a chance to get up here and look every one of you in the eye and call you out because I think you're cowards.
My name is Chris Olexon, 996 Glacier Road. I had no intentions on talking today, and I hope I don't get emotional. I have 2 grandkids in the district. Julie, you have common sense. You're the only one. When this thing first started, everyone was petrified. The way the media spun it, everyone was told you'll know someone who dies from it. The vaccines, excuse me, Jeff, they were not a vaccine at first. They were an experimental drug. And I've had friends that asked to look at the ingredients in the box. When they pulled out, blank. Left blank on purpose. And he asked them to the pharmacy, don't you sort of question why that's blank? Whatever the answer, I don't know. But now common sense has to start kicking in, you guys. The masks do not work, they're a joke. I've had COVID 2 times at least. I am 62 years old. The little children that are preschool to 5, 6th grade, they're fine. My grandkids have had it, they're fine. It's common sense. Where has it gone? Where? The masks are dangerous, very dangerous. I should have brought brochures. I wasn't prepared tonight. I've never been to one of these, but it makes me sick what you're doing to these kids. Emotionally, I had a little 1st grader last year. He was 1st grade. And it was harder for him than my high school grandkids and my middle school grandkids because he had to sit there from 8 until 3. He had a 15-minute recess in the morning, 15-minute little lunch. He could not get instruction and then go away and do his instruction, do it. He had to sit there and stare at this thing for how many hours? It's ridiculous. You have to really look inside your heart. It's common sense. I'm older than probably all of you in here. I'm not afraid of COVID. It's a flu. Gee, the flu's gone now. Isn't that amazing? The flu is gone now. Did we shut down our schools every time there was a flu outbreak? Did we shut it down? You can scrub it. Sometimes when the breaks got bad, when the kids were all sick, there's so many, yes, they did go in and scrub the kitchens and stuff in the cafeterias. But it's like Brett said, everybody's acting out of fear, and you want to not have any blame. You need to take a look in the mirror at yourselves. I mean, I don't know how many of you have had it before. It's not a big deal. It's a flu. And yes, I believe there's some little things in it that affect certain people more. I had a friend that I haven't seen in 15 years. I'm going to make it quick, 15 years. She came up. Her mom got vaccinated and her son-in-law got vaccinated. He had kidney issues and they knew, and they figured about 58 he'd probably need a kidney transplant. They both got the vaccine at the same time. 4 months later, guess what? We just found out last week. He has to have a kidney transplant Friday. I'm worried about him because his numbers dropped after he got the vaccine. Her mom, I just found out yesterday. I just took her home Saturday. Her mom is in the hospital now, right now. Blood clots in the legs and all throughout her lungs. And they figured the lungs probably started 2 or 3 months ago. And legs, which showed it. They both got the vaccine at the same time. Common sense, you guys, common sense.
I'll make this quick. My mother-in-law and father-in-law are both dentists. I'm very close to them. My husband is in IT. He's absolutely brilliant when it comes to computers and other things like that. Nowhere would I ever in a conversation, though, say, well, you know, my father and mother-in-law are dentists, so let me go ahead and diagnose you with something. Hey, my husband's in IT and he knows how to do this. Why don't I just go ahead and tell you all about this and that and everything else? You, sir, are not a scientist, are you? Your wife, I've heard, works for a company. I feel like it might be conflict of interest here. I won't say. However, it's absolutely disgusting and disturbing. I respect your decision and your decision and yours and yours and yours and yours and yours and yours and anyone else that chose to wear a mask. I respect that. Why is my decision? Why are all these parents and people that couldn't come here tonight, why are their decisions not being respected? Right. Why? No one has an answer. CDC says this and that. I can Google, and I actually did this, because I feel like anyone, you know, you can Google anything, right? We could argue my side. I could figure out, oh, the numbers are this, and you can Google it, and you can help your side with this way. I just Googled, is pizza healthy? Pizza healthy for me. I came up with a website on healthfitness.com that says pizza is a great nutritional thing to feed your kids instead of other foods, right? You can argue any side and anything. All we're asking for is a choice. That's all we're asking for, you guys. Have a lovely evening.
Bad anxiety, so I'm not very good at speaking in public, but I keep going back to the picture of my 2 boys on my phone here. So that's why I'm going to be brave and stand up and do this for my boys. And that's why all these parents are here doing this. My son was in preschool last year, and I thought the masks would just be something that would be for a year. And I was a person that I didn't complain. I thought, okay, they're making the right choices and decisions to keep our kids safe. And I thought, it's just a year. The summer went by. I was happy to see you had the mitigation plan. And then 6 days before school started, we get this email. You've decided to put all our kids in masks. And I thought, we have this vaccine. I didn't think we would have another year of this. To go on your point about, it's about having the kids in school. And thank you. We all want the same thing. We want our kids in school. Last year, when my child was in preschool, my whole family got sick with the neurovirus. Now, I'm sure everybody in this room's had the neurovirus before or know what it's like, and it's hell. Guess where we got it? My son's preschool class. And the entire school, the entire class, was out because of it. And that's how I know it came from the preschool. So what I want to know is, what's another option, okay? If you want everybody in the classroom, maybe you can add it to the next agenda. What is another option for keeping our kids in school that's not just as unhealthy as COVID, like wearing these damn masks? Yes. Why don't we teach our kids, first thing when they walk into school, we have a health and safety course where we teach kids, wash your hands, social distance, don't kiss your friends. I don't care what, but can't we come up with something else? Can't you see that these people, we've all made the hard decision to come in here and get up and talk to all of you because we all obviously want our kids in Williamston schools. And the last thing I'm gonna say too is my husband and I moved here 5 years ago, and I love Williamston. We've always talked highly of Williamston from day one. And up until this year, for the first time, I've considered leaving Williamston and going to a different school. Because I've heard of a lot of other schools that are putting the parents first and considering what they want for their families. And they want them to, the parents, we make hard decisions. And maybe some of us aren't gonna say, you know, our kids are not gonna wear masks the whole entire year. Maybe I'll put my kids in the mask during flu season. I don't know. But again, we just wanna be able to make that choice. And so that's all I'm asking you is just please reconsider all of this and consider, is there another option? Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name is Mike Glovac, 520 East Grand River. I don't do public speaking, but I just want to say I have 2 girls who were in the school system for 5 years. We pulled them last year, not to do Zoom, but to do homeschooling. They do not come to this school anymore. And we're going to continue to homeschool them in the future. I'm here to support my community against all these anti-science mandates that are coming from this board. Because not everyone has a situation where they can homeschool their kids. So they're trusting that they can take their kids and bring them to this school and get a good education, which is what it's supposed to be about. Our girls had a great maskless year last year, and they're starting another one this year. They're never wearing a mask again. What you guys are doing and not listening to any of these people out here, subjecting their kids to this crap. This is ridiculous. This is common sense. I forgot who said it back here. This is common sense. Let me ask you this. For the last 100 years, common cold has killed more kids than COVID's killed last year. What have you guys ever done for the common cold to mitigate that? What'd you say? What'd you do? We all learned it growing up, right? We all learned it. Wash your hands. If you're sick, stay home. So why is this different? This is killing less kids than a common cold does every single year. But nobody cares. Nobody here cares. These people care about their kids. You guys care about nothing but your own selves. Be ashamed of yourselves.
Anybody else?
I'm gonna go one more time. That guy right there, he hit it on the head.
You know what, you get 1 3-minute time.
Yeah, I had 30 seconds left from last time.
You don't have any time left, I'm sorry, sir.
I don't, but you still ought to, each and every one of you, be ashamed of yourselves.
Anybody else?
Every one of you. Yeah, I don't think there's
I'm
a
Jen
rule on
Derry,
that, actually.
1143 Grand River.
I'm sorry, could you say that again? I didn't hear.
Yeah, we didn't hear you, sorry.
I didn't hear you because of your mask.
You just answered my question, so it seems like you did hear me.
Okay. Nope.
So anyway, I would like to know the purpose of a board. I was under the impression that it had something to do with the parents' voice. You all voted twice, last board meeting and this board meeting, without any consideration for the parents. And I would just like to know why. I don't understand why our voices, you can look at me when I speak.
He will not.
Our voices need to be heard. I'm pretty sure it wasn't the CDC who elected you. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Ingham County who elected some of you. I don't even know. We did that, not them. We are asking you to listen to us. We're not being heard. You sit there, you stare, you have this blank look on your faces, and that's fine. If you have your own personal opinion, I don't care. I want all of you to have your own personal opinions. I also want all of you to have your own choices. I don't tell you how to parent your child. I didn't come here to co-parent with the school board. I'm not co-parenting with you. I also second your count day. I also add another challenge too. Why don't you all put our kids' mask on your faces after they get home from school?
That gentleman wanted to talk. Do you guys have your laptops? Can you show us the rule that he's not allowed to speak again?
There's a policy.
Could you show us? You can put it right up on that board.
We can put it on it's actually on the website.
I don't want it emailed to me. I mean, if he has something to say.
We're here now.
We're here now, so.
And I know this isn't a dialogue, but I just want to say that I personally can stay after, and if anybody wants to have a civilized conversation, then I would love to have
So
that
you'll stay
conversation.
after, and if you can't find it, you'll listen to him?
No, what I'm saying is that I will have a dialogue with anyone that would like to after the meeting.
Well, I have 3 minutes. I'll wait.
As Mr. West stated, I don't think she should be speaking to public comment. That does work both ways.
Okay, would you like your 3 minutes? to direct
This
the
is
board?
part of my 3 minutes. I want to know why, I want to see why he can't speak.
Okay, this isn't a dialogue back and forth, so you can have 3 minutes, and I will set the timer whenever you're ready.
Okay, that's all I wanted.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I am closing citizen comments, and we are, moving on, to board member reports and requests. Any board member reports, requests?
I do have a request, if Adam can research, just if there is an ability to get within that 3 feet. Did you say it was 3 feet with mask and 6 feet without? Or is it 3 feet without? I mean, is there any way at an elementary school level to do a classroom that would allow them to take their mask off at their desk during instruction? So if they came into their 2nd grade and they had assigned seats, that they could, I know that researching some other countries, that's what they've done, is when you get up from your chair, you have to mask, but when you're at your chair, if you're within like that 3 feet, you can remove it during instruction with the teacher. Maybe research something like that.
Yeah, well, I'm not supposed to answer right now.
Yes, that's right, just write it down and read, and we'll, just let me know on that, that'll just,
But non-vaccinated would be 6 feet.
okay, so non-vaccinated would be 6, okay. Yeah,
The short answer is no, you can't.
yeah, yeah.
Anybody else, board reports, requests, anything?
I'm so appreciative of the opportunity for a choir club and for the library card. I'm super excited about both of those, so thank you, Adam, for bringing those forward.
Anything else? Okay.
Yes, so for the next board meeting, let's have the rules that have been asked, such as,
What the policy is, if we
yeah,
do that, and just
and
go
let's
over
have it here, and maybe have it posted outside as people walk in, so they understand when public comments can be made, how long public comments are, just so they're informed. The other is, that I think that maybe a letter out, when a letter goes out to the parents regarding the ages, that we understand, or that parents in the community understand that based on the mitigation plan as passed back, however long ago, and then updated back on August 5th, when the CDC came out with their guidance, that we would be in, at the elementary school, a mask situation. Because I think that after what I heard, nobody wanted to hear that. We are where we thought we might be, unfortunately. And even with mitigation, it still happened.
All right, any other reports, requests? Again, I'd like to thank all of you, for getting here early today and doing our closed session before we did this, and staying and coming prepared and doing everything you need to do to be here. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Chris, all in favor?
Aye.